So guys, hello again. Now, for how I do the thing. So if you are using Blender or ZBrush, it doesn't matter. What I do is, I go for example, and this sphere, this head, I will name it head 01. And then we'll have it. Then I will hide it from here in Blender. In ZBrush, you can always do a subtool and hide the other one. It's very easy. Then I will just add a sphere. Of course, I have to do it in object mode, add a sphere, and go put on my symmetry and start working on this sphere. So it's easy, you don't have to always open a different file and do it. You can do it very easily like this. So let's start. This will be our planes of the skull. So this, by the way, are planes of the skull from the guy who is called Gustav Velicek. Gustav is a 3D artist and he is pretty good. Let me show you his art station. It's this. He has a lot of anatomy stuff and it's pretty cool, I would say. So you can check it out, of course, if you want, but for now we have it here. This is from him and this also. So we will try to do this kind of shape. Just a basic skull shape. To do a basic skull shape, we don't only need this image, we also will probably want to have you know, skull from the profile view. This is a female, this is a male. We will do mostly female skull because the male skull looks strange. But whatever, we can do everything. This also is a nice skull, although this is a 3D, we have to always be careful with the 3D. This, of course, is a 3D. These are scans. So, if you are using 3D or other people's works for reference, you have to be very careful because most of the time there will be slight mistakes because nobody is perfect, even me. So when I tell you something that it is like this, you have to always bear in mind that you have to check it out. You have to check photographs, you have to check scans, and that's the most important thing. So for now we need to do a decent skull without neck. This time we will not make a neck. So for the skull, what is characteristically for the skull is, let me show you now. It will be mostly like a helmet shape, of course, like a motorcycle helmet. And you see, it's almost exactly like a motorcycle helmet. And what do we want to do now is make this cut here where will be the jaw. See, this particular cutting here we want to make. So I will just cut it like this. And you see, overall, we have a nice thing. So the front portion, we want it to be, let me show you. We want it to be like this, then flat, and then like this, and then like this. So this can be our jaw in here. And this will be our jaw, but it has to be, we have to, in the beginning, kind of stylize the things. We have to make it flat lines and stuff, and then we will make it more detail and more detail if we want, but for now we need it mostly like this. Then of course here will be our cheekbones around like this. It's going back. Then here will be the eye sockets. And then below it will be the nose. And then between the nose and the chin will be our teeth. And they will go very, very narrow. They are pretty narrow, by the way, the teeth, but you will see that. So the teeth will be around here, and here we'll have some things, but the jaw from here to here, it's narrower than the jaw of the person, because here we have some muscles and a little bit of fat, and it's making our jaw wider than the skull jaw. The skull jaw is a little bit narrower, as you probably will notice. In the photographs, for example, from the front, you see how narrow is the skull jaw. So a little bit more meat on top will make it like a person, but we don't want a person. We want now to make a skull. So yeah, let's continue. Again, I will make this kind of separation between the front, between the top, the forehead, and the facial part. But of course we need more geometry, so I will Control R. And then I will make this separation. You see, this is just to make yourself feel easy. This is the forehead. We have to make the forehead, and the forehead is important. But the bottom part is the face, where a lot of things will happen. And you will notice that for the skull, the eye socket is stays a little bit higher than it should be, but not too high. I mean, we still have to have a forehead. So from the front view, I will smash this, because again, I want my facial part to be narrower than the back part. Of course, we have to be very careful not to make the back part ultra wide and big, because if we do, it will look like a balloon head, which is never a good thing. Now here, since the jaw is a little bit, hollow, I will just do this. Then the jaw itself, I will make it in, and I will try to achieve this kind of a nice look. So from the side view, you see how it's flat, and then jaw, which is like this. Jaw, flat, and flat. Then here we will have our cheekbone, and then here will be our eye socket. Then the ear hole, and then the ear basically will be around here, but we'll have this kind of in. Then we'll have a little bit of, you see here, those kind of bumps in here, and they are also here. There are bumps, and then you have inward part, and then you have following the forehead. Then we will have our nose, which is the skull nose. It's very, very short. He's pretty short nose, Michael Jackson style. And then we'll have the teeth and other stuff here. Right. So we continue to do it. Now, what we need to do is the cheekbone. Let's do the cheekbone and dig a lot below the cheekbone. Then the muzzle of the mouth will be here. We will dig also in this area, because, between this top part of the nose here, where the plane change happens from this kind of plane to this kind of plane in here. So from there, this is pretty thin. This area is thin. Many people are making it pretty thick, this area, and it doesn't look good because it's not correct. And we make it thin. And then I will grab, so I can use the grab brush or the move brush in ZBrush, whatever, just to make this kind of a nose shape. And we basically don't need to make the whole of the nose yet. Just make this nose shape. And then most of the time we have a little bit of a bump in here, and then we have the muzzle of the mouth below. And the muzzle of the mouth of the skull is kinda always bulging forward. As you can see here, it's bulging forward. Let's see on the skulls. It's like bulging, it's a lot here. But you see, bulging forward like this. Let's look at the skulls, by the way, like this, for example. It will be easy. So, you see, the skull, the nose, it's going like this, and it's going in like that. Okay, looking great. Now, the socket of the eye, I will push, because, this socket of the eye is a shape that we will talk about a little bit later. But we'll see. Now, here on the top part, we don't ever want to see this. This forehead is not good. Why? Because now we see this flat and this, like this. And this is pretty flat in here, which is not good. We have to make it so it's like round, more round in here. And this is flat. But let's do this. How to do it? With the flatten brush, I will flatten these sides a little bit like this. Just flatten. This is a very common mistake, by the way. But you will fix it, of course. Now, we need to cut a bit like this and smooth it. Why? Because we need these bumps over the eyebrows. And those bumps here in the middle are pretty big. So what I mean by that is those bumps here are like this. They are like this bumpy. And then here on the side of the socket, they are a little bit of a bump, but kind of a narrower bump. So this kind of bump. Here it's bigger, and then here it's narrower. You will see why. And then here it will be a little bit, not a little bit, a lot inside. Also here, this will be all inside like this. Not in the face of the human. You see, here, you see it. It's like all this area here, just at the temporal line, and above it, and I mean not above it, just behind it, and on the bottom, is kind of going in a little bit. And also here, you see how the eyebrow, and then you have this kind of going in a little bit. That's okay. And here, those are pronounced, those areas here. If you don't make them, you will make a super beginner mistake, and you will see in many beginner works. Let's see that. You see, there are not any bumps in here, which is that's why it's looking cool. Overall, it's looking great, but you know, there's a little bump in here, but not quite much. And also the forehead is pretty empty. The shapes are not correct. There are other problems, but here on the forehead, we see a lot of issues many people are making. Those are also beginner works, and a little bit intermediate works also, but still it's not good enough for us. We need more work on the forehead. The forehead is very important. Many people are underestimating the forehead. They're concentrating their attention. Now I will make this kind of inner portion in here. They are underestimating everything on the face is important. Ears, forehead, everything. Not only the mouth, nose, and the eyes. No. And many people are, but Nico, I find it very difficult to do eyes. And then I see his nose is amazingly bad, and the lips are amazingly bad, and the eyes, of course, are bad. But he tell me I have a difficulty with eyes. No, you have difficulty with all the shapes, with ears, with eyes, with everything. They are difficult. I'm not saying they're easy, but we have to do it. We have to be able to do them. That's our goal in this life. Okay, now I will push this a little bit in, because I want from the side view, from the 3/4 view, this to look good. I don't want it to look smashed like this. We don't want that. We want it to be kind of a squarish shape. Why I'm saying that? Let me show you. So you see, it's a little bit like an angle in here, but I have a better, this is a real skull from Roman times, I think, and see how angular it is. And it looks cool. It looks a little bit odd, yes, but it looks cool. By the way, when you see a skull on the table, it's most likely a little bit tilted like this, because it's laying on the flat. The flat is this. This is horizontal lines. And usually when the head is normal, those lines are going down. That's why mostly when you're looking from skulls like this, you will see them like this, and you'll see, oh, how big is the face part and how little and small is the forehead. But that's why, because they are like this. If you are looking at them from the normal view of the human head, then there will be a big forehead, there will be a big face, and the eyes will be kind of in the middle. That's what you have to understand sometimes. And also, about the focal view, it's also very important to use the focal view I told you, 88, or something similar, because if you use either types of focal view, look what can happen. So in the beginning, all the programs, I mean ZBrush and Blender, they have like 50 focal view, which is around like this, which for making faces from up close is not very good. It's most likely looking like this. Especially if you go closer to the face, it will look more like this. So it's very distorted. But if we are using 85mm or 88mm in my case, it will be more original face-like. You see? You see the difference, the same person, but with 15mm and with 800mm. Of course, even with 800mm, we barely, and we almost, but without the hair. No, we cannot see the base of his ears because the face is going a little bit back, and you will see that on the skull too. I mean, there is a lot of information that I will teach you. You will see how the cheekbones are going back like this, and the ears are here in this back part. That's why they are not that visible from the front. I mean, the ears themselves are very visible, especially if you're using the right lens. So above 50, about 80 even, above 80. But the beginnings of the ears are not exactly visible. There is a lot of information, and I'm sure that around maybe 30% of the information after each video will be kind of okay with you. It will be inside your head. But that's why, especially anatomy videos, especially those kind of courses, you have to watch them not once, not twice, a lot of times. Because every time you will see things, you will hear things that you haven't before. Now, what I did is I've increased the resolution a little bit, I've smoothed, and now I can start making a little bit of detail. It's not too much though. So, what I like to do is I like to push here a little bit, and then let's make the eye sockets. So the eye sockets from the front view will be like a Ray-Ban glasses. Of course, now I'll have to symmetrize here because it was not completely symmetrical. This is normal for Blender. ZBrush usually makes the things more symmetrical. But what those eye lines will be, the eye socket, how it will look, will be like this. So first it will go up, and this will be our bump in here. Then it will go down. Then it will go flat almost sideways, and then it will go kind of a flat also, but a little bit more up in here. So like a Ray-Ban glasses almost. But you see how it's going up, but very little, and then it's going down and sideways. Let me show you how this looks in a real skull. So the same thing. Sometimes I have difficulties. This is a PureF, by the way. The PureF, now it's okay. Now it's going up, and then it's going down. It's going up, and then it's going down. And it looks a little bit sad. Although it's smiling, but it looks a little bit sad. That's why, you know, because those sockets. But when you have muscles here, when you have some meat above, then you can do this, for example, to frown. And when you frown, you know, this is just flat line here. So you have to be careful, watch those things in your reference. It shouldn't be always like concept-wise. I mean, it's not always like the skull, it's not always the same, but the basic shapes are this. Now our skull doesn't look ultra bad, although the backside of the skull I think looks a little bit too huge, which I want to change, so I will just dig it, make it a little bit. You know, here I will dig a lot because here we have a hole basically in the skull, and this hole is from here on the bottom to here. It's a hole from here. You see here. We will not do that because we don't need to. It's not visible from the side view or from the front, but there is a muscle in here. Let me show you. So there is a muscle which is attached to the temporal line, and it's coming down, and it's grabbing the jaw, and we are kind of chewing, and you can see when I'm chewing, it's moving in here because this muscle is contracting, and it's moving behind this thing here, which is the cheekbone, of course. Okay, that's why in the skull we have to push this area a lot in, a lot. Let's see how much. It's a lot, as you can see, a lot of pushing there. But other than that, we are golden. Let's see this skull. Okay, yeah, it's a lot of. You cannot see it quite much in here, but this is going quite a big hole in there. There is. So cheekbone, we make it, and then let's see here. we'll make the jaw. By the way, the jaw of the skull most of the time is very interesting. It's, let me show you, it's in the middle. You just push it up. It's like this, pushed up in the middle, and it's cool. Then let's try to make the nose. I don't want to make the holes of the nose, since we are making the planes of the skull, and the hole in the nose is not exactly something that's very important for the planes of the skull, especially. Here we'll have one plane, although this is not a plane. As you can see, this is going outward. It's going in, I mean. So we have to catch it and just move it like so. So it's an arch from the top view. It's important. When you do that, it will be better. We have to make it a little bit fatter or thicker in the front. Here, this corner of the eye socket is a little bit thicker. You see? And by the way, for the next video, where we will make a kind of a better skull, we will start it at least, we will make it from scratch, because it's always good to exercise. It's I never use the same thing for something again. For example, this skull, and then from this skull to make you know, the realistic skull. It's not exactly right. You see what I did here? Those lines are going in like this forward. That's why it looks like this. Let's see on the real skull. You see those planes. That's why, because they are not flat. They're not sideways pointing. They're pointing a little bit like this. That's why you see them. And then we can make the socket of the mouth like this. And here we will push a little bit, because we need this distance above the teeth here. You see how when we push this area in a little bit, it becomes better. It becomes nicer. But let's go to the planes of the skull again, and we can see that we have a plane change in here, which in the real skull it will be a little bit more slight. But since we are doing a planes of the skull, it will be kind of big plane change. Then I will move this. Of course, if you are not as fast as me, this shouldn't concern you at all. This will come in time with a lot of practice and hundreds of hours of working. Yeah, I said hundreds, but there actually have to be thousands of hours. I am so fast, and I have a channel which I made the characters for less than 2 hours each, like Hulk and everything. You can check them out. It's Speed Char Life, it's called. But whatever. So I'm so fast because I have thousands of hours sculpting in my professional career and my you know, not so professional career, where I was just sculpting for fun. When I was working in Gameloft back in the days, I'm just making few things. I don't have to explain everything. You can watch it and listen to my pep talk. So when I was working in Gameloft, I was working during the day and making characters for the company. And then when I come back home, I was working and making, just for fun, some things. When I didn't have work at work, because there are some periods sometimes that you don't have quite too much work, then I was doing some work just by myself. Just working for my portfolio, working for my skills, practicing anatomy and stuff like this. So yeah, this of course you have to do it willingly. So you have to want it, and that's the main thing. You have to want that. So for the cheekbone, I would like it from the side view to kinda make one line like this, which is going backwards from the from the brow line in here. And you will notice you have to acknowledge that and remember that this is kind of flat in here, because after, when we make the shape of the face, we'll have to do those things. Here, by the way, let me tell you that, but we will go through it again. Most of the time, your base of the nose is where this bump here is. So this is the base of the nose. And then your lips are kind of very thick layer over the skull. It's pretty thick in here. Many people are making them very, very thin over the skull, and it doesn't work. Make them thick. This is thick area here. Here it's very thin, just above the nostril here, above the nose. It's very thin. There are areas like here, for example, it's very thin. Here it's very thin. Here also it's very thin, the skin. But there are areas also here it's not very thick, but still it's thick. Here it's very thick, by the way, because you have a very big muscle, which is again for chewing. But you have it here. Here also it's very thick above. This area here is with muscle and some fat. Here it's not so thick along this skull line, the cheekbone. Here also is a little bit thicker, but not so thick. And overall, around the eye socket, you can almost everywhere around the eye socket touch it. But it's not very pronounced in most people. But it's there. And you have to be able to make the forms in order to show it. Otherwise, you will not be in a very good shape as a modeler or artist, as an artist. Let's see now. So, this guy has made a very good representation how the plane changes. So, here we have something like a plane change. So, the shape is going outward, and then it's going inward and going to the back from here there. So here again, the shape is going up, and then it's going backwards from here, almost like this. It's pretty cool how he just defined those lines. Most of the time, even if you're making a head, if you define those lines, it will be very nice for you. Of course, you can always smooth them later, but they will be there. And that's very, very good and important. Okay, so I don't completely like my skull from the front view. So let's try to fix it. Of course, watching references is always good. Let's watch some references. This is not a good reference from the front view. This is better. So what I need to do is make the cheekbone a little bit more pronounced like this. From the front, I feel like. Yes. And this should be it. I mean, if we make a teeth of this, it will be better, but we will not make teeth because this is just for planes. We don't need teeth now. We don't need details. We need only to practice the planes. So let's completely for the next like 5 minutes see where the planes are. So one plane is here, visual. You see it, very big plane. So another like a curvy plane is here, but I would say that those are the corners of the mouth. Not the corners, but those are where the mouth is kind of flat in the front. It's not super flat, but it's curvy, slight curve, and then suddenly it goes back. So this is the suddenly goes back part. It's here, around this area. He didn't make it exactly, but I feel like it's better to do it this way. Then another plane is this front plane of the cheekbone. It's very important. There is another plane in here on the side. You see? There are planes in here, but it's difficult to acquire one plane in here. There are a couple of planes going on. This is going over this. So this bulge in the front, in the middle, is going over this kind of, not bulge, but a little thing on the side. Here we'll have a little bit of a push. And that's it. There are planes like this, so plane here, and those planes in the front. You see? Side planes, front plane, and then in the top, it's kind of the same. I highly advise you to make these planes, and from time to time make this exercise of making planes. We will make planes of the head also, not only the skull. So you will see that, but when I make those exercises, even these days, I kind of understand it a little bit better, because these are very complex shapes and they're not easy to understand from 1, 2, 3, 4, even like 50 tries. Maybe after 100 heads, you will be able to understand it even better. But I've seen people that are starting to understand it from just like 4 months of work. And how is that? Because they are working 10 hours every day. 4 months, 10 hours every day, and you will be able to understand a lot of things that otherwise you will not. Okay, sometimes I have to Alt and Tab. This is not what I meant to do, but let's continue. So planes in here could be planes in here. We don't have to completely trust the guy who made the planes of the skull, but basically from my experience and everything, I would say they are pretty well put. Of course, always when we make a plane of the head or the skull exercise and we're using somewhere else's reference, because we don't have planes of the head scan or something, it's kind of not exactly possible. We always rely on other people's perception of the things, which sometimes can lead to a little bit mistakenly made things. So that's why I always suggest you look at a real reference for reference, basically. Okay, so this is the part of one plane. This here, I will say this could be a plane change in here. Let's see, by the way, on the real skull. Yeah, you see, you see the shadow here. Here, shadow, not so much shadow, because there is a curve in here, but then it's going outward, and it's exactly on this vampire tooth, where it is, this one. So the two front teeth, then once two front, those beside them, and then the vampire teeth, and afterwards it's going back. That's why I'm saying that we probably should have a plane change right here. Of course, it's not super pronounced, as I said, but it's kind of there. It will be better to do it. A little bit of a plane change. All right, looking good. Also, what I would say is that the front, the top jaw is mostly on top and going forward, more forward than the bottom jaw. Here it's very pronounced. Here it's not so much, but again is a lot more forward. Sorry about that. So yeah. And okay. Now we have this planes of the skull. From the back, it has to be kind of round. It shouldn't be something like super squarish or super round. It's a little bit squarish, as you can see. It's like flat on the sides and, you know, not super round. Don't leave the ball which you start making from, don't leave it like a main shape of the skull, because the skull from the side view especially is, as you can see, pretty much like this. It's not round, super round ball shape. It's round, but you have to see the planes. And if you make those planes, even when you make a realistic character, it will be better for you. Yeah, I made the lips a little bit more up, but it's fine. You can see how it looks good. All right, now In the next video, we will start from scratch again. We will name this skull planes. Then we will hide it in the next video and make another ball from which we will start again making the planes, not the planes, but the overall. We will pass through the planes and then we will make more detail and make the detailed thing. Why? Again, I'm telling you, practice makes perfect. So the more you practice it from scratch, the better you will become. Of course, it's a slow process, but still. Okay, bye for now. See you.